So the next story we have on the lighter side, so to speak, although maybe not so light if you become compromised by this, but I guess someone's converted some toys to be garage door hacking devices.
Yep. So this is the latest from Sammy Kamkar, who people might remember from back in the day, the Sammy worm on MySpace. That was him. Mm-hmm. He's made a name for himself with some pretty high-profile hacks. This one I think is kind of interesting because it's, well, let's just dive into it. There's a device called the IMMe. It's actually a device from 2010. And it's very hard to get these days. You can still find them on eBay. People have claimed to be able to find them for as little as $10, but if you look today, they're always about $100 to $200 because of their rarity, and for another reason, which I'll get to. Sammy has taken this device and turned it into a garage door code brute forcer. Okay. You walk up with the device, it's got a little antenna that he's hacked onto the outside of it, and you press the go button, a picture of Neon Cat appears on the screen, and garage doors start opening. Now, how did this happen? So the IMMe platform has what's called a system on a chip inside of it. It's like an all-in-one chip, and this one's designed for radio frequency communications. The original toy was designed so that people could send each other little over-the-air, not SMS, not internet, just little over-the-air messages using wireless. It's actually had a long history in the hacker community of being used for fun little things. Michael Osman of Great Scott Gadgets, I think is his company, he turned it into a wireless frequency display, so you could take a look at what sort of wireless traffic was going on in the area. Oh, okay. Other people have found other uses for it. You could flash the firmware fairly easily with instructions that are online, and I think Michael Osman actually designed a bit of firmware for it that would allow him to open his own garage door, but just one code. Now, what Sammy's code does is improves on this, looks at the frequencies used by several garage door manufacturers, and basically bakes in the functionality to loop through all of those garage door open codes in a very quick way.
It's probably a limited number of pins, right? It's probably like a 4-digit code or 6-digit code or something, right?
So I think the really interesting, cool technical stuff that he did here, it stands a bit on the shoulders of giants, if you follow what I'm saying. The code is mostly there, but he's got some really interesting optimizations. He doesn't break between attempting. He doesn't say, send this code, wait a second, send this code. It all just blasts straight through. And there's an interesting algorithm. I'm going to butcher the name of it as well. The de Bruin numbers or sequences. Okay. And I actually came across this a while back without knowing what it was called. It's a way of taking a set of numbers. So if you wanted to try all the pins, like 000, 001, 002, if I wanted to do 001, that would cover both 000 and then 001. Contiguously. So if you're not checking every 3 seconds, if you can just keep spinning digits and it'll look for those 3 numbers you're looking for anywhere in the sequence, you can design a sequence to minimize the number of digits you actually have to send, saving you a whole bunch of time. So I actually came across this. Someone had released these sequences for phone voicemail. You used to be able to dial into your own personal voicemail by knowing a 3-digit number. Yeah. Well, somebody came up with these number sequences, I guess, either through knowing the algorithm or on their own. You could just, press play on your tape recorder and it would go da-da-da-da-da, play all the numbers back. And eventually it would say, okay, that's the passcode. You are now into the voicemail system. So it's been around for a little while, I think, but it's interesting that he applied it here in order to shorten the time that he needs to open up garage doors dramatically. So there's some cool optimizations here going on. I'm not sure it's entirely, amazing research. It's not like someone came in out of the blue and said, here's a child's toy. It now opens garage doors. It's like a 5-year process of improvement on the platform and figuring out how to flash new firmware. And Michael Osman and Travis Goodspeed and a couple other people have been involved in working on this platform. But now you've got it packaged in a little pink device that you can walk down the street and open garage doors with. Right. So that's fun.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's not fun if you have a garage door that gets opened up.
So that's important to note, is that not all garage doors are susceptible. If you've got a garage door that supports rolling codes, which is to say that every time you send transmit, your fob will send something different, and the box will pick it up and say, okay, new code, it's valid, and then open the door for you. You're not necessarily vulnerable to this. It's only systems where the code stays static all of the time and never gets changed, where you can brute force it, because no matter how many attempts you make, you won't be cycling through the rolling code sequence that the modern ones have. So if you want to know what you've got, you can usually crack open either the garage door opener controller itself, or the fob, and if there's a set of dip switches on the inside, that means that the code is programmable, but only to one actual code.
Right.
So that suggests that you're in the market for a new garage door opener at that point.
So I guess either get a new garage door opener or you have to install fail to ban on your garage door, right?
I'd love
If anybody's
to have
not
that.
familiar with fail to ban, that's basically how you try to prevent brute force attacks on your SSH or Telnet or whatever on your devices, which I'd recommend you look into if you actually have those devices exposed to the internet on SSH. Yeah, so interesting story. It reminded me also of, I think we did a story quite a ways back about somebody who did something with Zigbee, which is a home automation, I think it might have been Zigbee, which is like a home automation protocol. And they mailed a package with a rogue device that spoke Zigbee to an address, and then it was close enough once it arrived on their doorstep to talk to the internal network and break in. I forget, this was a couple of years ago, I think we talked about it. So,
are you sure it was the show and you're sure it wasn't CSI Cyber?
Well, yeah, it does sound kind of futuristic. No, I'm pretty sure it was the show. But in any event, so, you know, there's a lot of these home automation things. And to me, that kind of worries me more because I don't want to, I want to make sure that my home is secure as well as my computer.
Well,
but
let's not confuse
more
things.
so my
This
home.
is definitely not home automation tech. No, this is
Right,
this
it's
is
not.
plain old RF garage door opener land.
Right.
It's separate from that.
Right. Although some systems integrate with your garage door now. Some of these home automation things that you can get, and they can talk to your garage door just like this device could, but in a legitimate way. So. Anyway.
Yeah, but in any case, it is a concern because if you've got garage doors that are susceptible to this is something that criminals could use. Open up the garage door, and now they're inside. Even if you've got the door between the garage and the house locked, they're inside where they can hide from. They're not visible to the street trying to break into your house.
Right.
So this is something to be somewhat concerned with.
Right.
So I will say that Sammy acknowledges that this might be a problem and has modified the code that he released so then it's not fully functional. You have to know, he says you have to know at least a little bit about RF engineering in order to make the code that he released actually do what he claimed it would.
Right. So some street thug is not going to necessarily be able to.
Not necessarily. But of course, there's always the temptation for some smart aleck out there who does understand RF to go and say, hey, Sammy, here's the bug in your code.
Right.
Post that online, and then it doesn't much matter anymore.
Right. All right, well, something to consider. And even though it is a kid's toy, I don't think it's derived from a kid's toy. It's not necessarily kids play. It's not a simple thing to do in terms of working with the firmware on these types of devices and hacking them to do this type of thing. But interesting nonetheless.